pjnet.tv, 9 p.m. East Coast time, Thursday night, first Thursday of the month. Got Kenn Edwards hanging out in the green room, and we've got our bumper running. We've got our record button in the on position, and we are streaming, and the restreaming server is in sync with all destinations, and the chat room's waiting too. So let's start a countdown to Studio 16 for a fireside chat. Okay, well, good evening. Welcome to pjnet.tv on this Thursday night. Time for a fireside chat. I'm your host, Coach Prasick. I'm glad you're here. Special welcome to those of you in the pjnet.tv chat room, which I forgot to turn on my tablet device so I can kind of keep up with the chat while we're talking to Kenn. Kenn joins us once a month. He does that the first Thursday of every month. And Kenn is a real team player, although you may not see him often in the chat room. He leaves his footprints all over social media. Anytime there's a PJNet broadcast, he is the first to like it. So are you just kind of a PJNet stalker, Kenn? Is that how we think of you?
Yes, that's a very good way to think about it. Actually, if truth be known, in a little bit of time I'm on social media, PJNet pops up first, so that's the reason why it gets liked and other things I don't even see.
Oh, Kenn, well, we just dominate the world and everything like that. Folks, another thing of notice is that we are trying, hopefully successfully, to use the lapel mic. I thought it looked a little awkward in this particular context to have this big, however nice, blue Yeti in the picture. It just doesn't match the ambiance of the room here. So anyway, well, Kenn, you have brought us much wisdom over the years about financial stewardship, planning, doing the right thing, but it doesn't stop with money.
Yeah, it really doesn't. In fact, it's really about learning wisdom and applying wisdom in our life. And our topic tonight is really wisdom transfer. In the world of financial planning that I worked in for many years, and now I've been in the nonprofit realm of charitable planning, it's so common for people want to pass the assets to the next generation. And it's called wealth transfer. Wealth transfer is the process of getting everything that you leave behind to your family in the most efficient way, paying as few tax dollars as possible, and getting things divided so nothing is left behind. But the problem is, if you transfer just the wealth and not the work ethic, not the moral values, not your faith, not, the other important intangible portions of your life, you may do more harm than good. In fact, our podcast, the last podcast that aired, our guest was Jeff Rogers from Stewardship Legacy Coaching. And Jeff made the comment on the podcast. He said, if you transfer your assets to your family without wisdom, you may do more harm than good. Because if you don't prepare the next generation to live properly, to spend that money wisely, and to really understand you're a steward of the Lord, and God expects you to manage those assets wisely, they'll just be blown. And the majority of the time, that money goes bye-bye. Basically, what happens is the kids get it, and within a matter of just a couple of years, if not months, it's gone. In fact, under the new IRA regulations, you can no longer do a stretch IRA. If your children inherit an IRA, the government now says it has to be taken out within 4 years so that the government gets its taxes.
Right.
And so if you leave much in an IRA or 401k, you have to prepare those children to know how to use it. And so passing on the wisdom is extremely important, or else they'll be broke in just a matter of time.
Well, it's actually exacerbates. It might be better to not leave very much, because if you've got a beneficiary, and we'll assume for general purposes that would be your son, your children,
Sure.
and your children are making bad choices, to enable them with treasure to make those bad choices is actually making you culpable in their transgressions. Even though you're dead, I mean, it wouldn't matter, I guess. But
well, it does long term for your children and grandchildren and for other family members. So let's say you have 3 children and one of those children is wayward.
mm-hmm.
Maybe they're not bad, but they just can't handle money.
Mm-hmm.
And so if you plop $50,000 in their lap, it just enables them. It hurts them. They're less likely to get up and go to work. They're less likely to, spend money wisely. They're going to go blow it, or they're going to sit and play video games all day rather than building, a life and a work ethic that provides for their family. And so you're better off to prepare them or leave them broke. There's a lesser known German author by the name of Ruth Renkel that wrote many years ago, sometimes the poorest man leaves his children the richest inheritance. So it's the values that we leave behind, the teaching from our life that really makes the most important foundation for our children going forward. And that's why the wisdom transfer is so important, to make sure that you give the background and prepare that next generation either to handle the assets or run the business or continue with the legacy that you started before you passed away.
Well, in some cases, you just brought something up that made me think. You may not leave cash. You may have a family-owned business that's been in the family for generations. And if you haven't incorporated that child or those children into roles to carry on the business after you're gone, not only will it affect your legacy, the business will be soon, out of business.
That's true, even if the kids are involved in the business. Typically what will happen is, we've talked about this before, by the 3rd generation, the family will be broke. Generation 1 works hard with sweat of their brow and basically creates a business from scratch. Generation 2, they're the benefactor of dad and mom's hard work. And by the time that they are adults and begin to take care of the business, they're enjoying the fancy cars, the
mm-hmm.
big vacations and things that mom and dad could never afford,
right,
because they were working hard. Well, the grandchildren, or the 3rd generation, what happens is they've been raised in this life of luxury, and they expect it, and they become entitled. And what happens is they enjoy the wealth and the prosperity so much that they don't appreciate the value of the work that grandma and grandpa put into the business. And that's where you've got to transfer those values and work ethics and help the children to be prepared to handle the assets that you leave behind. So another thing that Jeff said that I thought was very striking, and he said, if you want to leave a vibrant legacy, you have to learn to live a vibrant life in front of your family. So enjoy life, live it to the fullest, but teach your children and grandchildren how to be successful. And there's several ways that you may want to look at making it, more effective. Got to live it out loud. Just really let the Lord and the values that you want be evident in your daily life. Work together. Be together. Serve together. If you don't have a business and you can't, find ways to work together in the business, do community service projects. Work around the house or projects in the yard, or something to be together as a family and show your children and grandchildren how work is really done. And it's important that we, live by example, that we teach by example, because it's the example of our life that will really speak more than the words that we say and leave behind. And so when it comes to our values for Christ, we need to make it evident in our life that Jesus is our Lord and that Jesus is the center of our life. So that when we're gone from this life and our children are left behind, it'll be natural for them to follow Christ in the same way. One of the projects I'm working on now is, writing letters, love letters to your children, to go into your estate planning documents. And I'm hoping to be able to do a podcast on this topic with a lady out of Atlanta, Georgia. But I'm also wanting to put some examples on my website so that people can go to the website and get these ideas of things they can share with their family. If their children are living for the Lord, it can be a blessing. It can provide information for them that your desires for them to walk in the Lord. You could pray over them in this letter. If your children do not know the Lord as their Savior, you would have the opportunity to share your faith, maybe pray a prayer for them for their walk with God and being reunited together in heaven. And so there are many different ways that you can pass those values on, and it can even be done after you've gone on to be with the Lord. But you've got to live it in a way that it's real and evident in their life so that it's not a surprise when you're gone.
Ken, if you have more points to make, I'm taking some notes here. So
okay.
But I'm wondering, and if you want to carry on, we can catch it later. But I saw this post, and I'm trying to summarize it.
Okay.
Okay. Hard times create good character. Good character creates good times.
That's a great thought. Both ways. Good
times create bad character. Bad character creates hard times. It's an ecosystem, okay?
It is.
But you mentioned, and I think it's very true, the children of the third generation, fourth generation of a family-owned business that has done well and prospered, they get new cars and they get to go to private school and they get all the privileges that go along with the earned income without themselves having to earn it.
Yes.
And they become, spoiled, rotten kids who are incapable of, prerequisite to any management position is being able to manage yourself.
That's why the wisdom transfer is so important. More than the assets, more than any bank account or any business value, being able to instill those values and teach the kids by working together, being together, loving together, serving together. So hopefully they will catch those values. The Bible even talks about this concept. In Romans 5, I'm almost positive, it talks about how tribulation, worketh patience, and patience brings endurance. Endurance makes us not ashamed because it brings hope. And that may not be the exact way that it's written, but that is the concept, that when we go through trials, it makes us stronger. It builds that character.
It does.
And that's exactly what, and then the opposite, just that ecosystem you were talking about, when things are way too easy, then what happens is we get entitled and we feel like everything is owed to us, and we begin to abuse the system, and it eventually leads to our demise.
Those who believe themselves to be titled are never grateful.
How true. And unfortunately, I think that's very true in our world today. And all too often, there's a group of our population in America that feels like the government should take care of us.
Yes.
They're entitled, that if anything goes wrong, the government's the one that needs to bail us out.
It must be
Or if you go
somebody
back,
else's fault. Yeah.
yeah, if you go back a couple of generations to my mom and dad's, and probably your parents' generation, it was they worked hard and they worked by the sweat of their brow,
Mhm.
and it's that, we're in that third generation now, and we need to make that transition, or our country may find itself, no longer being the leader of the world.
Saw another wise post on that Paragon of Intellectual Rigor Facebook to the effect: good character, like all virtues, is best taught by modeling.
Yeah, I was just going to
Your
say
dog agrees.
Yeah. I was just going to say a minute ago that most of these things are caught, not taught.
Mm-hmm.
That your actions speak much louder than your words. And it doesn't mean that you have to be perfect. I'm not perfect. I'm a long way. You can ask my family, and you can ask my wife. I'm not perfect. But when I do make mistakes, which is not every day, but it's often.
But they're monumental when you do. I mean,
and I am very quick to say I'm sorry, and I'm typically harder on myself than they are on me.
Mm-hmm.
So our actions speak louder than our words, and we need to live it out loud so that people will catch it, understand it, see it, and learn from the way we live rather than just the words that pop out of our mouth. Too many times we've told our children, you can't do that. Why? Well, the church tells you not to. Or, Grandma and Grandpa wouldn't be happy. Rather than giving them the real reasons of why and living it out before them. So it's important that we do live the example before our children every day.
Speaking of wisdom, I've just been advised by somebody in the chat room, JD, your name has two N's in its first name, and so I just fixed that. I knew that.
Well, that's okay. It's all part of Kenneth, but my books and my social media, it's all Ken with two N's, and it's just a way to identify myself.
Yeah.
And so,
well, Ken,
my wife sometimes she says Ken with one N, but that's okay.
Yeah. Well, you mentioned your wife a moment ago, and now you mentioned her again. Your wife has recently been bestowed some honors.
Yes, she has. She entered two of her books into the Salo Award, which is part of the Blue Ridge Writers Conference. And one of those was selected to be a finalist. And she's going to shoot me because I will probably get the title wrong and the category wrong, but it's Contemporary Christian Romance. And the title is Let Him Go. Thank you, dear. She's speaking into my ear. And she's not talking about letting me go.
Okay. Yeah, I'm experimenting with this new microphone, and the other one has a button, and the button makes a loud noise, but when I feel like a sneeze is coming on, I can mute it real quickly, but this is a little harder. But I've got some, new gear coming up. Ken, we're out of time, but I feel like we ought to at least mention your podcast.
Yeah, the podcast is What's So Important About My Legacy. You can go to my website, footprintforgod.com, and look for the Legacy Podcast tab. And in there, it'll be redirected to the podcast site with all 12 episodes. The first season is done. I'm taking a quick break. And then after we get relocated into a new home, I'll start season number 2. And we're looking forward to another informative time of helpful items on our legacy, financial planning, and on stewardship, because all of that is part of stewardship of handling the assets that God has entrusted us with. After all, He is the owner, and I am the caretaker, the steward, the manager of everything He's put into my care.
As we all are. Well, Ken,
Yes.
your topic of passing wisdom on is imparting wisdom to us, and we appreciate you sharing that with us tonight. And I happen to know that not only is your dog waiting on you, I believe your daughter called in and is waiting. Well, I forget what it was, but you have duties to tend to, and I feel like that there's probably just outside of the range of the camera. You have some people getting your attention or looking for your attention, so we know that you will do the right thing and be a good husband and be a good father and be a good leader in your home. We don't talk much about marriage enrichment here, but we don't need to. I'll give you everything you need to know right now. Yes, dear.
Goes a long way.
That's all you need to know. Now, you don't have to actually do it, but you have to say, you don't have to do it right away, but you should be, oh, yes, dear, I understand. Yes, dear.
Yes.
The grass needs mowing. I know it needs mowing. I just don't care. Anyway, well, Ken, it's always a good time sharing with you. But thank you for sharing your wisdom so generously, and it's something to ponder and consider. And we've got a month to consider it before you come back for more. You've got a month to figure out some new wise thing to impart to us by then, and I'm sure that you will. We appreciate you sharing, Ken.
It's been great to be again with you tonight.
Thank you so much. That is Kenn Edwards, Ken with two N's, and you can't see me, but see, hello. Folks, more wisdom on its way from the PJNet broadcast studios. At the bottom of the hour, J.D. Wininger comes our way. And we're going to keep the same studio. We usually have what I call a two-stage studio where we can put a video up and on. But we'll keep it. We'll just keep the fireside chat theme intact here. And before I leave, we will be back at the bottom of the hour. I ask you this: well, it's really doing yourself a favor. But if you won't do it for yourself, well, do me a favor. I'd appreciate it. Ask yourself these two questions. First, what is the boldest thing that you've ever done for Jesus Christ? The second question is, when was that? I hope none of us will be satisfied with either answer.